Were these children from another planet? Were they just green with envy? Or could this be one of the most baffling mysteries of all time? Are these the strangest kids in the world? First, we have to ask, where did these strange children come from? How did they get to Earth, and why? If they were aliens, then what kind of aliens were they? And if they weren't aliens, then how can anyone have such an unusual skin color? The story starts in the year 1191. King John was the King of England at the time, but he was more concerned with fighting a war than ruling his country. This meant that the kingdom was left to his nobles to basically run while he was off gallivanting around like a medieval Robin Hood. Of course, this isn't great because the nobles had other ideas about how to run the kingdom. They weren't really working together, and they ended up starting a civil war. The Barons' War, as it came to be known, would last for 6 years before finally ending in 1216. But it wasn't good for anyone involved. Famines, plagues, and deaths were commonplace. It was during this terrible time that the Green Children appeared in the village of Woolpit. One day, 2 children wandered into the town. At first, no one paid them much attention. After all, during wartime, people are more concerned with things like surviving and not getting murdered. But the townspeople soon noticed something weird about these children. For one thing, they were incredibly skinny, but the weirdest thing about them was their skin color. They were green. No, not a little bit green like Kermit the Frog. They were a vibrant green like the Hulk smashed them with a gamma ray. Now, this is a little weird, but what did they do next? Well, according to the legend, they couldn't speak English, though they understood it just fine. Instead, they made noises like animals, and then one of the children died. But when they went to bury her, they found out she didn't have a coffin. That's because her body was incredibly light. In fact, it was hollow. Whatever the reason they had come to Earth, it seemed to be over now. The villagers buried the girl and went back to their normal lives. But then something happened that would make this the weirdest story ever told. After the girl died, the boy started to glow. One night, the people of the town woke up and looked out their windows. To their amazement, the boy was floating through the air, rising higher and higher until he disappeared into the clouds. Now the people of the town were pretty scared. 2 strange green kids show up and one of them dies, and the other one flies away. What does this mean? Are these the offspring of demons or aliens? Some thought they might be Christians who were being punished by God, perhaps for their sins. Others thought they might be pagans. As far as they knew, the children hadn't broken any laws, so they shouldn't have been punished. But some said the children's strangeness was proof that God was angry at the whole village for some unknown sin. There was also the theory that the children were somehow cursed. Perhaps they had been born into a family that was destined to bear weird and cursed children. Whatever the case may be, the story doesn't end there. In fact, the story gets weirder as time goes on. Several years after the death of the Green Children, an entire family showed up in the village that looked exactly like them. A man, a woman, and a child, all green. Where they had come from and how they were related to the Green Children is unknown, but they became known as the Green Family. After a while, the adults grew less green, and the child grew less green until he was eventually totally normal. Still, no one knew where they had come from, and the mystery only grew as time went on. Now, you might think that's the end of the story, but it isn't. More than 50 years later, in 1324, a group of French scholars were hanging out in London when they heard a rumor about 2 men who were putting on a show. These men claimed to be dwarfs from a far-off land, and they were charging money to see them. So the French scholars decided to go check them out. But when they got there, they saw something that made their jaws drop. The so-called dwarves were 2 men who were green, just like the Green Children. This was way too much of a coincidence. Surely these men were related to the Green Children of Woolpit in some way. But how? Were they brothers, father and son? Who were they? And where had they been hiding for over a century? These questions would never be answered, and the mystery only grew as the centuries passed. The first written account of the Green Children comes from a letter written by a monk named Benedict of Boulogne. He wrote the letter to a fellow monk named John of Worcester, asking him to look into the strange matter. John of Worcester would write back and say that he had heard rumors about the Green Children, but he could not confirm them. This means that what we know of the story is based entirely on rumors and word of mouth. We don't know how accurate the story is, which makes it even weirder. There have been many theories about what happened to the Green Children. Many people believe they were actually extraterrestrials who crashed, landed on Earth, and somehow managed to survive. This is especially popular with UFO buffs who say that the glowing and levitating could have been the result of alien technology. However, there is a problem with this theory. The Green Children lived during the Middle Ages. Back then, people didn't really know much about science and even less about space travel, so it seems unlikely that they would have believed the story if they had actually seen aliens. On the other hand, maybe they really did see aliens, but no one believed them. Maybe they were trying to tell the townspeople that they were from another planet, but everyone just thought they were crazy. Of course, there are plenty of other theories about what happened. Maybe the Green Children weren't aliens, but mutants instead. This would explain their strange behavior and appearance, but it wouldn't explain how they got to Earth or why they died so easily. Another possibility is that the Green Children were simply victims of a rare medical condition. This is a bit more boring, but it does explain everything. Unfortunately, we will likely never know for sure what happened to the Green Children. The story is too old, and there is too much missing. Some people claim that the Green Children really existed, but the truth is that the story has changed so much over the years that we don't really know what to believe. What do you think really happened? Do you believe these children were green, or were they just covered in green paint? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. It isn't just the Green Children that add to the creepiness of this tale. It's also the idea that something so bizarre could happen and then just be forgotten. If the Green Children were aliens, why did no one else see them? Why didn't they leave any trace behind? And if they were human, why did they die so easily? It's almost as if they were never really there at all. But there are some similarities between the Green Children and some real-life cases that are worth looking at here. There are several recorded instances of people showing up who have green skin. Most of these cases are relatively recent, so it's likely they were exposed to something that turned their skin green rather than being born with it. In the 1970s, a man named Dennis Lee Crawford showed up at a mental hospital claiming to be an alien. He said that his skin was green because he was from Mars. Doctors examined him and concluded that he suffered from a mental illness that made him believe he was an alien. It's possible that something similar happened to the Green Children, though there is no evidence to support this theory. But what about the time that a real green child was born in Russia? In 2006, a baby girl was born who was, you guessed it, green. Her skin was green and she had huge red eyes. Doctors were baffled, but eventually they discovered that she had a rare genetic mutation that made her skin turn green. This condition is called cyanosis, and it turns the skin blue or green due to a lack of oxygen. This case is quite interesting because it shows that someone can be born with green skin without having an underlying medical condition. But it doesn't explain how the Green Children of Woolpit managed to live for years with this condition. And what about the many people who claim to have seen the Green Children over the years? Could they all be wrong? Or is there something more to the story? The truth is that we may never know for sure. All we can do is speculate and come up with our own theories. The Green Children of Woolpit remain one of the strangest mysteries of all time. Whether they were aliens, humans, or something else entirely, their story continues to fascinate us today. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our awesome videos. And if you want to learn more about the creepiest cryptids, be sure to check out our other videos. There's something for everyone.